I press the button and the doors go up. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds now, her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finish friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the D. D's no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a beat, bro. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds now, her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip. Neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, don't no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since the fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button. I belong to you.
I belong to you.
Do just what you want. You're the one I trust.
Puts it into an area. Keo, Zamora!
And I'll always be around when I need some love and baby. No one else.
Put you down. Sing all my melodies.
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Championship Show. This is episode number 97. It is fast approaching the biggest day of the year. I am so excited. The fat man is coming, but I am not talking about Christmas. It is South Wales Derby weekend. We are live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Ace Podcast Nation also home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts, and more. So please follow us on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, spread the word about upcoming shows and guests with a T. And you can also follow the Andy Campbell football shows on all social media pages at AC Footy Show. If you'd like to streamline your experience just to football, and you can download the audio versions of every single show that we do, an exclusive interview we do. Just as we wait for everything to fill up nicely on the various platforms, big thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever. They are a global sports agency which represents sports stars from around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media pages and their brand new website. I encourage you to check them out. Today's sponsor, Bespoke Financial. And Darren Ralston of Bespoke Financial is currently giving away a free will with £140 with any new policy which is taken out. So check him out. I encourage you to give him a call and don't miss out on this amazing offer. As we've discussed, he's looked after Andy with various policies over the years, and they are top of their field, award-winning service. Very proud to partner with them. But with no further ado, joining me as ever, the co-host with the most. He is the fox in the box, the goal collector, ex-Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker, Andrew Campbell. How are you, sir?
I'm good, yeah. Another solid week full of action-packed games, non-stop action. As obviously our guest alluded to on Monday, the Championship is the league which just seems to play every single day of the week, which is fantastic for viewing, for watching. Some very good performances, some not so good performances, results. But yeah, an interesting weekend. Gutted in a way that we've got no fans because I know when we said lockdown and we said there's no football without fans. I'm really intrigued to see the derby tomorrow, and I know we're going to talk about it later on. But without any fans, players are going to play with no pressure, no fear. So it's going to be a different one. I think it's one which might be a little bit more open than people are going to anticipate.
Indeed, mate. It's an exciting weekend, but it's also, like you say, it's going to be a strange one. As we discussed with Michael on Monday, it's different with no fans for the players, and it can have a positive or a negative effect on the fans and on the players. So it's going to be a weird one, and I'll be interested to see. I think it'll come down to which players cope best with the situation, because even though they're used to playing with no fans, a derby game is just so different. So it's going to be.
Listen, it's the same. It's the same for me. At the minute, we've got teams who are beating anybody. You know what I mean? There's no form guide at all at the Championship. Never mind going into a game where in any game. You know, so I think it's just you've just got to take every game as it comes. You know what I mean? Teams are going off 12 points out of 12. Some are going off 0 points out of 4 games. It's just so interesting, the Championship. So it'll be let's see. Yeah, listen, it's going to be an exciting occasion, like all the games are in the Championship. But the way that both teams are playing, but we'll go through it later on, I'm sure.
Indeed. So it begins. A couple of questions straight off, which I'll get to now. Gaz says, "Are you not Dave Jones's favourite son anymore?"
Always.
Maybe
always.
Not. Maybe not. You never know.
Always. Always.
Bobang927 says, "Andy, as we know, they're a tiny club, and that's why you never got to play them in the South Wales derby, as they were years behind us at the time. Would you have liked to have played in this derby in the league?"
Oh, listen, I think I was quite fortunate in my career. I played in the derbies at Middlesbrough against Newcastle, against Sunderland, and they're all special games. As a player, you don't need anything to get you up for a game, and the South Wales derby would have been no different. I would have been super excited to play in it. I did get close once in the World Cup, but I don't think it would have had the same impact for me. I think the league is obviously something, and I've seen the games since I've left, because obviously the teams have got obviously more high profile and had a little bit more success together, which is great. But listen, we want these kind of games full to the brim in the Premier League. That's where everybody wants it. You know what I mean? Listen, fans are fickle. Fans want Swansea and Cardiff to get relegated, but they want that game in the Premier League. Let's make no bones about it. You know what I mean? That would be one of the biggest games in the Premier League calendar if that was in it. It's like the Manchester derby, so it'd be amazing. So you know what I mean? We want it at the top level. Yes, we don't want each other to do well and have success, but I'm on about the top level. Get the top level, and then we can fight it out and battle it out for bragging rights.
Spot on, mate. So we mentioned fans are back in the ground. It's a difficult one, isn't it? So we've got any other business. We're going to talk about this. For those of you who watch every show on the channel, very, very quickly, and I do, as you know, I do a wrestling show with Andrew, who's an American black guy he's about his early 20s, lives in America, obviously. He asked me when we started the show on Wednesday about the Champions League stuff, because he had seen clips of it on Twitter. He doesn't follow football or soccer, as he would call it. But he asked me about it because we've had various discussions over the last 12 months about, various incidents which have happened around the world. So I was kind of explaining it to him and going through it with him. So if you want to see the expletive me discussing this, you can check that out. It's the first sort of 30 minutes of the show. I gave a much more X-rated discussion of it. But ultimately, mate, the Millwall thing, I think, is... it's frustrating because
It's
the fans straight back and you're
it's,
watching it.
it's disgusting. It's absolutely it's vile. Si, there's no room for it. Absolutely no room for it at all. You know, listen, we're talking about fans who've been starved of football, starved of going to football. They get an opportunity. You know what I mean? And those people who chose to do what they did at Boo at that time, when players took the knee and took the stand from Derby County and Millwall, by the way, you know what I mean? Was absolutely vile. You know what I mean? Because every other Millwall fan who wasn't lucky enough to go at that game, who wouldn't have took that stance, is branded with the same brush like every other Millwall fan is. And that's not right and that's not fair. You know what I mean? We're on about a minority. You know what I mean? Not every single person in that ground booed. You know what I mean? So, but unfortunately, mud sticks and the reputation what Millwall have got, is it deserved? It's deserved for a football club because these actions are keeping on and carry on happening. You know what I mean? And they're going to happen until somebody does something about it. You know what I mean? For me, I'd dock 'em points. I would dock 'em points. You know what I mean? Hit the club where it hurts. You know what I mean? The players would have to encourage them. The club would have to do something about it. You know what I mean? Because I just don't agree with it. I really, listen, we've been through this so many times about racism. We can go back to the international show when England played Bulgaria. That's how far back we're now going back to this. Yes, it goes back further than that. But I'm on about on our shows and the time we talk about it. You know what I mean? Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? Listen, all lives matter. But that's not the point. You know what I mean? The footballers have made a stance. They've taken a knee, and everyone just, for that moment, respect for what's happening and what's being said, and move on and get on with it. If you want to boo every time a Derby player gets the ball. But don't boo at that moment. You know, listen, be excited that you're at the game. It really annoyed me.
I've seen a lot of people on social media saying, "Oh, I don't want politics in football." Blah 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 blah, and they're trying to make out that it's about Black Lives Matter being a political group, right? But it's not about that. Number one, being anti-racist is not political. It's just about being a decent human being. Number two, it's about showing solidarity. Easy for me to say, with the people of color of the various football clubs who want to take that stance, who do feel marginalized for whatever reason, whether they've suffered racist abuse, whether they've been victimized by police because of the color of their skin, or they know people who have had similar experiences. But it's about showing solidarity. I shouldn't have chose that word again. It's solidarity. About standing with those people and saying,
but so listen, this campaign started.
That's what annoys me.
This campaign started because somebody lost their life. You know what I mean? And it just reiterated how important it is for life. And you know what I mean? The point that the fans were trying to get across on Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. was just timing was just wrong. If they'd have booed at 3 o'clock when the game kicked off and did some kind of their own little protest for their own little gain, for their own little game, or for their own little however they wanted to do it. Listen, but this the Millwall players, they'll have been disgusted. You know what I mean? How do the Millwall players feel about that moment? You know what I mean? How do you know what I mean? They must be embarrassed. You know, listen. You know what I mean? There's things that happen in football which when your own supporters do certain things and you think, oh, I wish they hadn't done that. You know, in certain times, and it just leaves a bit of a sour taste. And unfortunately, certain football clubs, them in particular, are going around in circles until something's done about it. You know what I mean? Because for me, a fine's not enough. A fine's not enough.
Millwall fans weren't the only club who booed their players not taking a knee. Colchester also did the same, or Colchester fans did the same as the player were taking a knee. I think there was one other club, but I can't remember what club it was. So I'm not gonna say. I'm not going to try and use my memory and guess and get it wrong. But ultimately, mate, it's just about standing with people and not being a twat. And that's what it comes down to. I try not to swear on this, but it really winds me up when people use this excuse. So I don't want politics in football. It's not politics. It's not in the remotely political to say that I stand with these people who are sick of being treated a certain way just because they happen to have a different colour skin to you or me or whatever else. I'm just bored of it, mate. I'm fed up of having to talk about these people being ostracised and targeted because of their colour of their skin. And then you go straight after that, you go into the Champions League, and a game has to be called off because the Romanian fourth official has used a certain word in Romanian, and all the players, rightly, by the way, walked off because whether, there'll be an investigation. But look, I'd be a hypocrite if I stood here and tried to say, "Oh, it's a miscommunication of language, etc., because I crucified Luis Suarez, I criticised Edison Cavani the other day. All used the same word. Okay, you can't have one rule for Liverpool and one rule for someone else. It's the officials are told in European games to speak in English, so that there can be no confusion in terms of language.
But at the same time, with that side as well, Law, you know what I mean? They're on about a 4-match ban for this fourth official. Well, official. It's disgusting. Listen, it's laughable. You know what I mean? That's looking after their own. That's looking after their own finest. It just annoys you.
This is why we're in the position that we are in world football with racism, because every time something happens, whether it's monkey chants from fans in international games, or it's league games, or all the various things we've talked about in the last 97 shows, at some point, it's because they always get a piss poor fine, which means nothing to that nation or that club, and they play a couple of games behind closed doors or something like that. So what's the point? Like, unless you're going to throw the book at someone, then everything, like there's a whole rule book UEFA have got about racism and racist language and behaviour by fans, players, and officials. There's a whole rule book on it. What's the point in that if when someone breaks those rules, you just give them a fine or a ban which doesn't affect them?
Now, the whole thing's a joke, side, because listen, you've got a rich owner who's, you know what I mean, any owner now will just pay a fine. You know what I mean? For me, hit the club where it hurts, because if a team's going to get relegated because their fans have misbehaved and done something they shouldn't, then so be it. Then if they're going to continue to do it, they've got they're impacting their own football club. You know what I mean? So let them carry on doing it. You know what I mean? Because the only way to learn is learning the hard way. A fine is hitting one person, and that fine's hitting the owner. If the owner had done it, fine him, take money out of his pocket. But the owner's not doing it. But the owner's having to pay for it. The crazy people who are deciding to do these kind of things.
Yeah, and the other thing, mate, as well, that's a very good point. I don't normally put comments up which I got sweared in, but it's the point and the subject. I think it deserves it. The other thing is, mate, right, is when fans are back in the ground, if you tell club X or nation X, you've got to play 5 games without your fans, it's going to make absolutely no difference, because they've just done 9 months of that. So,
yeah,
it's time to start hitting them where it hurts. And if it's got to be like, I don't know if this is the right terminology, so someone will correct me if it's wrong. It's got to be cumulative to who you are. So if you're Man United, or you're Paris, or you're Man City, or you're one of those multi-rich clubs, then the fine has got to reflect that. If you're Colchester or whoever, your fine's got to reflect that. If you're England, one of the biggest footballing nations, richest FAs in the world, the fine has got to reflect that. And that is the only way that you will make these nations, these leagues, these clubs pay any attention, is if you hit them in the pocket and you hit them with long 6-month bans.
See, I disagree. I think for me, the only way to do it is if FIFA and UEFA put out a huge stance and they say, I agree. Who's just put that comment on their side? Put that comment back on. So Rob's just said there. So for me, if you show racism or you break the rules in Europe, you're banned. You're banned from Europe for the next year.
Yeah,
that's your fault. Your team's fault. Your fans' fault. If you do it in the league, take 7 points off them, 10 points off them. They won't win the league. They might get relegated. So what? You know what I mean? It'll stop them doing it the following season. And the only way to do it is absolutely zero tolerance. Forget fines, because that means the bigger clubs can do it because we can afford the fine. It doesn't matter if it's £20 million. they can still afford to pay it. You know what I mean? Because if it's £1 billion, they'll still find the money. They'll still pay it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they'll appeal. It get knocked down to £2 million. Oh, we'll pay it now because it's £1 million. It doesn't matter. We'll make that in finishing in 4th in the Premier League. It's hit them where it hurts.
But I just think you
Hit them
can't.
where it hurts.
You've got to have the fine as well. And I think
I think money's irrelevant aside for me. Money's irrelevant for them.
So I know we're going to get a lot of questions on Cardiff and Swansea. We're going to give Cardiff and Swansea a full preview at the end of the show. We're going to do all the championship stuff, talk about Cardiff's week, and then we will give it a full preview at the end of the show. And I've got a little clip from a celebrity fan, which will be interesting because he's not a Cardiff fan, to give his predictions. Look, we could go around in circles. We could talk about this forever and ever and ever. So we're going to get straight into the championship. Just before we do, we're going to have a quick word from Bespoke Financial.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my auntie Louise told mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if mummy or daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and mummy and daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah, big thank you to Bespoke Financial. They specialise in life insurance, critical illness, income protection, mortgages and sports cover. I urge you to check them out, give them a little look, because they got some great offers. They're award-winning, top banana. So we're going to blitz through this league now. We're going to go in detail, but also cover everyone. Starting with Sheffield Wednesday, mate. Tell me about their week. You're muted. You're still muted. Can you hear me? I can't hear you at all, mate. Like whatsoever. So I'll just take. You've gone completely. I'll take over. So Huddersfield. Who do they do? So Saturday they lost to Norwich 2-1, and sorry, Sheffield Wednesday. I'm going bananas. So Sheffield Wednesday, they lost to Norwich 2-1 on the Saturday. Norwich have just been on fire. Another 2 late goals, really, 81 and 84th minute. It's unbelievable that the amount of late goals they've scored this season, mate.
Listen, Sheffield Wednesday, I don't know what's going on with them. You know what I mean? They're losing the big games and they're losing the derbies. They lost Rotherham. They got smashed by Rotherham. They got smashed again by Huddersfield. They're losing the games which the supporters are desperate for them to win. You know what I mean? Listen, not many teams are going to go to Carrow Road and get a result. So you can probably swallow that a little bit. Decent performance. But the games that you expect them to win, Huddersfield Town, they're on a really bad run. They haven't won since they beat Bournemouth at home, which was 9 games ago or something, you know. So it's they're in a long losing streak, and having a new manager coming in, being hard to beat, hasn't had the impact which I thought it would have done. You know what I mean? Having a manager like Tony Pulis come in, being defensively minded. I'm not sure if the points deductions had a bigger impact than everyone imagined it would, because they just can't get out of the trouble that they're in.
Yeah, it's really strange, mate, isn't it, with them? Because they obviously had the points revoked or whatever. So it's like that cloud is not hanging over them anymore. But yeah, they still, since that's been lifted, their form has dipped. So it'll be interesting indeed. So next up is Wycombe Wanderers, mate.
Yeah, another tough week for Wycombe. Listen, every week's going to be a tough week. But when you're playing Preston North End and you're playing Barnsley, you're playing against two sides who are really good going forward in the minute. Both create chances, both score goals, and the way that Wycombe trying to set up and try and play, they're trying to be hard to beat. A good friend of the show scored. Was it last night or the night before? Joe Jacobson scored a penalty.
Yeah, he scored a penalty.
Very, very well taken penalty. Was really pleased when the penalty was given because obviously I knew Joe was going to take it. So it was nice for him to get in the score sheet and show his quality and show his worth. But listen, as long as Wickham can get enough points to get out of the trouble side, I think Gareth will be over the moon. But it's going to be a long, long season for him because there's so much strength and depth in every team this season.
Yeah, he's Joe Jacobson, by the way, I think has been one of the standout players of the championship this year. I think
he's done well.
Consistently 8, 7, 8, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So to do that in a team which is, struggling, especially considering he's a defender, I think is very commendable. Next up, Derby County, mate.
As Wayne turned this around, as he's making this side hard to beat, he's kept 2 clean sheets in a week, which is fantastic. We said obviously last week. I said last week that he's let 2 late goals in. He needs to sort his defence out. He needs to concentrate for the full game. Well, he certainly proved me wrong this week with 2 clean sheets. Millwall and Brentford, two away games, 2 tough games, and to come out with 4 points and 2 clean sheets is a massive feat. And he's not playing himself, which is a masterstroke at the minute. He's taking the pressure off himself, which I think is the way forward if you want to be a coach and a manager. So good luck to him. Listen, if he can turn it around, I'm all for it, because if it gives another young English manager with a pedigree of the Frank Lampards and the John Terrys and Steven Gerrards, listen, I'm all for it, and I hope he can be a massive success.
Yeah, he's obviously watches the show, mate. He's taken notice of our advice.
But he had to, Si, because
he had to change.
They were too flaky. They were all over the place and bit misjointed all over the place. They weren't a very good watch.
They look very solid, I thought, this week in defence, which is obviously a massive problem previously, previous couple of games. And I think it's vindicated their decision to go away from the joint thing of him and the other couple of guys and giving it just to him.
Yeah,
we did discuss that a little bit, and obviously he went on to lose a couple, but I think that was the right decision.
Oh, listen, Si, he's gonna lose games in this league because the league's not set up to win every single game, and he is their best footballer as well. So to take him out of the equation and then still win games is a credit. You know what I mean? He's passing on his experience, but credit to the board, credit to whoever's made that decision to give him the job. He's got Steve McLaren above him if he ever needs him for advice, to help him out, to lean on for ideas. So listen, he's in a good place, and four decent results. You know what I mean? 3 draws and a win. You know what I mean? He's had a good couple of weeks.
Indeed. Next up, Forest, mate. Talk to me.
Oh, geez. I don't know what's going on. Chris Hughton must be baffled himself. Listen, 2 hard games. Listen, on paper, you're playing Reading, who passed them off the park, played them off the park. Michael Morrison on Monday told us how well they played, how Nottingham Forest on paper have got one of the best sides he's seen, but paper means nothing. You know what I mean? You've got to perform on the pitch, and on the pitch, they didn't do it on Saturday from the game I watched. I didn't see a lot of the Norwich game, but Norwich beat them 2-1 after Forest got the equaliser. But listen, they've got to start picking some points up soon, because the gap, I know we're going to talk about Cardiff City soon, but Cardiff City have won 4 on the belt and haven't really improved the distance between the top and where they are. So if Nottingham Forest do that, there's going to be no change in the league, because teams are going to win, teams are going to continue the form. You know what I mean? The gap from where they are, you know what I mean, in the just outside the bottom 3 is a disastrous for a club of Forest size, especially after what happened last season. They were in the playoffs all year, if not higher.
Yeah, it's very, very worrying. I think in Forest, they're the team which worries me, because since that last day of the season, I know we've said it a lot, but since that last day of the season, mate, they just have not got it together. They had a little run where they was like, oh, all right, here we go. Now they're going to be, back to where they were last year. But they look all over the place. The players who have been solid to top quality championship players for years do not look the same players. And I just worry that there's going to be one of them which is just going to keep going and going and going down.
The last six games have scored 1 goal. You know what I mean? And on paper, Michael talked about paper. I'm not going to say, you know what I mean? This isn't Michael's opinion, by the way. This is my own opinion. On paper, they have got, for me, the 2 best centre forwards in the league. Yeah. But paper means nothing. You've got to give them chances. You've got to play their strengths. You've got to play them. They've got to be fit. You know what I mean? They lost Matty Cash to Aston Villa. They haven't lost a lot of players. You know what I mean? They've lost a few players, but they brought players in. So something massively is going wrong at that football club, and I can't put my finger on it.
But what's weird about it is we move on to Rotherham United next. Rotherham lost 2 games this week, 2-0 to Watford, 3-1 to Coventry, and they lost to Brentford previous to that. So that's 3 games on the bounce they've lost. I would argue they're playing better than Forest are.
Yeah, they are.
Actually, on a different day, they could have won a couple of those.
And listen, they're giving it a go as well, Si. You know what I mean? Teams, especially the teams that come up. You know what I mean? We looked at last year. We looked at them in depth. The Barnsleys and the Lutons, especially. You know what I mean? Because they stayed up right at the death. And Rotherham could be in that mix because they're getting enough points, they're churning enough points over the season so far to be in where they are. And they deserve to be where they are because they're inconsistent. But they're still scoring goals. They're still creating chances. Yes, they're letting a lot of goals in because the Championship is a better level and a better league than the league they were previously. I know I keep reverting back to what Michael said on Monday, but why wouldn't you revert to somebody who's an expert at that division who's playing in it week in, week out? And he said the gulf in that division is like 2 or 3 divisions within itself. So he says the top 5, 6, 7 are cut above everyone else. And I tend to agree with him because when we get to them later on in the show, that the consistency, the goals they score, the players they've got, you know what I mean? They are a cut above. And, you know what I mean? Rotherham just need to keep the head above water, keep going, you know what I mean? Try to win the games around them. But when you're playing against Watford, it's like a free one. Try and win it, you know what I mean? Because if you defend, and you let a last minute goal in, I have no regrets. Just try and beat them. You never know what's going to happen. Luton did it at Norwich, so go for it. Go for it if you can.
Spot on. Coventry next. They're unbeaten in 6.
Well,
playing very, very good football.
There's my example. You know what I mean? Obviously, the game against Rotherham at the last weekend was a massive one for both teams. Coventry came out 3-1 winners, and then the home game against Luton, for me, then becomes a free one because you can afford to go for it a little bit. You can afford to pick a point up because 4 points in a week for Coventry City is absolutely massive. You know what I mean? They are unbeaten for 7 games unbeaten. It's fantastic. You know what I mean? They've got an opportunity to stay in this league because of the consistency by picking up enough points now in the league because they are going to have a bad time. It could be Christmas and they could be dragged down, but they've got enough points at the minute, which is keeping them where they are.
Spot on, mate. Next up is QPR. Again, we've talked about their inconsistencies. But one thing I will say, one of my favourite parts of football this week was when they scored against Millwall. And
Chair's goal was amazing.
It was not only a great goal, but they all went and celebrated in front of the Millwall fans by taking a knee. A superb response.
Yeah. Firstly, inconsistent. I think that sums them up. You know what I mean? I say it week in, week out. They must be the best and the worst team to watch in 190 minutes. They must make you grey overnight. What's being a QPR fan? But they play away from home at Huddersfield. Get beat 2-0. Quite comfortable, by the way. I thought Huddersfield were much the better side. QPR not at the races. And then against Millwall, I thought they were the better side. I thought they scored a great goal. I thought Chair's goal was outstanding. Very patient, got the ball. Smashed it in from about 25 yards near post. I'm sure Danny Gobbinon was doing the commentary, which I was watching because it was a Sky Sports game, and Danny explained it. Just his technique, the way that he struck the ball was just absolutely fantastic. You knew when he hit it was going in. Yeah. And he's got a fantastic young player with a huge talent, and he's got an opportunity, that boy.
Spot on, mate. I enjoy watching those young players coming up through the Championship a lot. Millwall next.
No win in 10. Quite worrying. They don't score enough goals.
They started so well, mate.
Yeah, I know, and it's. I don't work it out. Gary Rowett had a great season last season. He's had a great start to this season, but they're just dying off a little bit. You know what I mean? They're not scoring enough goals, and that's killing them a little bit. You know what I mean? They're creating chances, and I can probably revert back to probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago when they played Cardiff. You know what I mean? They dominated the game, but don't put your chances away. Then you're giving good sides an opportunity. Same thing. QPR have to score a great goal, but you're creating chances but you're not scoring enough goals. Derby County at home, they're the teams that you've got to try and beat. You know what I mean? If last weekend, if you'd have told me that Millwall were playing QPR and Derby, how many points will they pick up? Minimum of 4, if not 6. You know what I mean? And to only pick up 1 is disastrous. They need to pick up some points quite sharpish.
Yeah, 100%, mate. It's going to be a very interesting season for teams like Millwall, Forest, because they are struggling big time now. Barnsley was next. They are literally, you win some, you lose some. There's no draws there.
And I think that's the way to do it, Si, for me, because a point's no good at the minute. A point's no good for any team. You know what I mean? Barnsley found that out last year. If you get 3 points, it can throw you up the league. But if you know what I mean, if you lose, you've got to just try and generate as many points as you can. Listen, the Bournemouth game was always going to be a tough one. That was on Friday night while we were on the show. They were 4-0 down very quickly. You know what I mean? It could have been a lot worse, by the way. The score, you know what I mean, in the end being 4, I think is a positive. And then you play Wickham, which is always going to be a tough game. Wickham got level, and then Woodrow scored the winner from the spot. Good result, well, better than that, great result, and it's given them a platform side, because if you can win your home games and you lose your away games, they're definitely going to stay up, because they're going to generate enough points to they're going to, on that form, they're going to have picked up 50 if not 60 points. You know what I mean? So that's well enough to keep them up.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Next up, we got Birmingham City. As you know, a team I really enjoy watching, and a very, very good week for them.
Oh, amazing week. Considering they came off the back of six games without a win, to go to Bristol City and get a 1-0 victory was one thing. Then to go to Reading in midweek and be 2-0 up and go and beat them is another. You know what I mean? Absolutely, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Especially Reading coming off the Nottingham Forest game at the weekend. Fantastic week for Aitor Karanka and his players, but now they need to kick on now. You know what I mean? They've got the players, they've got the manager, they've got everything, the infrastructure in place to do well this season. But you know, the league table doesn't lie. You know what I mean? Regardless what people tell you, the league table tells the truth, and it tells them that they are at the minute the bottom mid-table side at the minute, but they've got the players to do a lot better.
Yeah. When I was writing up the show description earlier, I said the form book had been turned on its head again. Luton Town were banging form. They'd coming off the back of, outplaying Norwich City, the best team in the league. Then lost to Swansea, drew with Coventry.
Yeah,
hard games.
Yeah, I get again. You know what I mean? You go to Swansea, and Swansea somehow in this division, not somehow, because that sounds really disrespectful, but they're doing really well in the Championship. They've got a way of playing which is effective, and they're beating the majority of sides. So I don't see that as a disgraceful result. But listen, you go to Coventry. Coventry are in form as well, so that becomes an even tougher game. But I think Luton will be disappointed. They only picked 1 point up in the week. That have been happy with 2, I think, and stayed unbeaten. Especially coming off the Norwich game. But Luton will be all right, I think, because Luton have got enough experience now from last year. I think last year has taught their players so much, and they've grown up, and the manager and everything. I think they're in a good place. They're in good hands, and once Kenilworth Road's allowed fans back in, they'll pick even more points up.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, if you'd given them that place in the league, lower to mid-table, in coming up to Christmas, they'd have taken a bit in your hand off for that. So
yeah,
that's the way you got to look at it. Next up, Preston North End, who are banging form now. They struggled at the start, and they are banging form.
How are Preston only 13th? You know what I mean? They're scoring goals going forward. I thought they were outstanding. I watched the game on Wednesday night against Middlesbrough, and they blew them away. Absolutely blew them away. 3-0, should have been 6 or 7. Some of the chances they missed were nothing short of extraordinary. You know what I mean? Scott Sinclair hit the crossbar, bounced. I think it went in, to be fair. I think it flattered Middlesbrough a little bit. They were missing open goals. They were missing quite easy chances. But I thought they were exciting. Scott Sinclair, listen, he's a superstar in the Championship. He gets the ball, he beats players, he runs past people. And it's they've got an opportunity to do really well, but they've got to sort out the consistency. They can't afford to... they're chasing this year, side. They're not used to chasing. Last year they were always in the playoffs, and then they died off towards the end. But have they got the sustainability to push forward? They've certainly got the players and the talent.
Yeah, they got the infrastructure in all fronts. It's just about
they've got a good manager side as well. I think Neil's a fantastic manager in the Championship. People see him as a negative manager, but when you've got Barkes and you've got Scott Sinclair, you know what I mean. He's got some formidable wingers, strikers, attacking players in his 11, 16.
Oh mate, next up Huddersfield. Talk to me.
Fantastic week. Listen, I watched them against Middlesbrough last weekend, and I thought they were all right. I didn't think they were anything special, but they beat Middlesbrough. But this weekend, last weekend, sorry, Cooper beaten 2-0, beat Sheffield Wednesday through the week. Two goals in each game, 2 clean sheets. What a fantastic week for them! It's given them an opportunity, Si. And listen, they're not going to be in and around the playoffs. I don't believe. I think that this is progress from last year. Last year, they somehow got themselves out of a position that they probably should never have been in, but they were. but they got out of it somehow. And this year, I think they're going to give themselves an opportunity to have a bit of stability and be able to progress forward for next season and the season after.
Yeah, it's a big ask in it to go from relegation contenders to playoffs.
In this league, especially with the teams coming down as well with the Premier League money, it's a big ask unless you're bringing in and taking a risk and spending loads of money, which they haven't done. They've bought a new manager in who's had a great season, by the way, so far. So he's doing really well as well. I will give him a special mention.
Yeah, you could argue that last year I cursed Huddersfield Town by tipping them to do well at the start of the season. They didn't, and a couple of weeks back I tipped Middlesbrough to get the playoffs because I felt if they could start scoring goals. And ever since then, they've fallen off a cliff a little bit. Not fully off a cliff. Obviously, they beat Swansea, but then they've followed that up with two losses.
Listen, it was always going to be a difficult week. The Championship's it's ruthless when it doesn't go for you, and it looks really bad with 2 defeats in a week. But you go to Stoke City. There wasn't much in the game, and you come on the end of a 1-0 defeat. The manager obviously was frustrated with everything that went on in the game, off the pitch, on the pitch. You know what I mean? Apparently the change in facilities and everything weren't fantastic. Where they were getting changed, he wasn't happy with social distancing. He wasn't happy with with how his players would tread off the field. But sometimes that drives you as a player. It drives you to go and prove a point, go and get the result, shove it down their face, so to speak, and then don't ever go back again. But then they got to Preston North End. I thought Preston just blew them away. I thought Preston were excellent. Middlesbrough didn't really create a lot of chances in both games, which is not like them in recent weeks. But I think a few Middlesbrough fans were probably getting a little bit too overconfident and thinking and looking at the playoffs and thinking that this is going to be our year. We've had a couple of negative years, and Neil Warnock's in charge. He's got the history of doing wonders in the Championship, which he has, and we've still got an opportunity to get in the playoffs. But I think you've got to be realistic. You know what I mean? The season they had last year's side, they escaped on the last game of the season.
Yes,
you know what I mean? So they escaped on the last game of the season. So we're on about Huddersfield here, who escaped a week before Middlesbrough because they beat West Brom in the week and didn't have to leave it till the last game. So Middlesbrough escaped on the last game of the season with a victory. I think it was more comfortable than I'm giving them credit for, of course. But I think where they are now in mid-table, it's so much better. You know what I mean? They've got better players. They're better to watch. It's more inviting. It's exciting. They've got a good manager in place. They're bringing some youth players through. And there's an excitement and a buzz around the area again, which is important. But I think be realistic and just understand that for me, progression is key. And I think I'm quite content where they are at the minute.
Yes, indeed, mate. Another team whose infrastructure is there to go on and push on if they get the right players in and they can find the right form at the right times. You know, they've got everything in place to go that next step, but you've got to build it gradually, haven't you? Next up, Blackburn Rovers, mate.
After a really good week last week with 2 wins, 2 tough games away from home against Brentford and Bristol City, to come out away with 1 point. They'll be disappointed. Tony will be disappointed with his players and that he hasn't got his unbeaten record going, or he didn't pick up 3 points in one of the games. But they'll go against that. They've got the quality in the team. They score goals. They've been defensively strong for the majority of the season so far, and you can't win all the games. It's when you don't win in a week and you play 2 games or 3 games and you lose 2 or lose 3, and it just looks like there's this disaster. But you know what I mean? Look at the bigger picture. Blackburn are doing well. They're sitting in a decent position. If they can pull a few decent string of results together, to be in the playoffs. I think if Blackburn get in the playoffs, and they're in there for a while, I don't think they'll ever come out, and it'll be an excellent season for them.
No, when you look at 10th Blackburn, 9th Cardiff, 8th Stoke, 7th Brentford, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see those 4 clubs be the playoff clubs at the end of the year. Not saying that the other clubs above them, are any worse or any better. I'm just saying you wouldn't be surprised if that was your 4 playoff teams. And moving us on, we moved to 9th place, Cardiff City, on a hell of a run, 4-4. Only conceded 2 goals in those 4 games. They started with 1 goal in those 4 games against Stoke, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it started with Watford, massive result against Watford. I don't think anyone expected that type of performance against Watford.
No, listen, Si, I think the manager's got to take huge credit. He's been consistent with his team selection. He's stuck by young players. Well, a young player especially. Harris up front. He's giving him an opportunity. He's making him a fixture in that side. Yes, he came off in the second game, and you know what I mean. Like he has done for most of the games, but I think you can only do so much as a young player. You know what I mean. You've been thrust into the limelight, so to speak, and thrust into these tough games. It's difficult to have that level of performance, but the manager's sticking with him. It's fantastic. The results, the points tally they're getting, the performance levels they're getting. I didn't think the first half against Stoke was great. I thought the manager got his tactics wrong. I thought he reverted back to a negative way of playing, but second half he got it right. So give him huge credit for that. My concern, Si, is the league table, and you know, I mean, I'm not making this into a negative. And you know, they've got 12 points out of 12, and they're still 4 points off the playoffs. But the distance between top and where they are, if they could have had a good start of the season, which I fully expected them to do,
they'd be bang up there, wouldn't they?
Oh, they'd be top of the league, Si, because they finished the season, if not the best side, informed side of the season. I fully expected it to carry on with no pre-season needed, and just go into the next season. So disappointed that they didn't. But if this is the run going up to Christmas, but obviously tomorrow's a big one, which I know we're going to talk about very shortly. Tomorrow's a massive one to continue this run, because it's more than points. But the points are the most important thing, and not forgetting that them points will get them towards the playoffs.
Yeah. You mentioned the lack of movement at the table after winning 4 goals, only conceding 1 goal, which is James. I think it was James just pointed out it was an own goal. We spoke to Reading defender Michael Morrison on Monday, and here's what he had to say about a similar subject.
We've said about the championship. It's not I don't think there's been many 0-0 draws. You know, there's early goals, or late goals. The amount of late goals in the championship this season over the last couple of weeks has just been unbelievable. The 93rd minute must be probably the most overhit goal time in the league so far.
Yeah, Norwich seem to have got the hang of that, don't they? They've scored quite a few late goals. They did that at the weekend as well. Rode a bit of luck with the penalty decisions there with Sheffield Wednesday, and then gone on and won the game, and they've done that a few times. And I think that's accumulation of games, concentration. Again, that question mark, if there's fans there, do then goals go in? Are people more concentrated, or is there that extra little bit of effort that might be there that subconsciously? That'll be interesting as well when fans come back. But I think it's exciting. I think when you look down from that top to 7th, 8th, everybody thinks they've got an opportunity, and then even the teams below that are looking at seeing if we can push on it and win games as well. So I think it'll be really tight to the end, and if you can put a win of 3 or 4 in a row, that'll make a real big difference. Because even now, back to back doesn't get you away from everybody, and it's, you know, points getting dropped. Look at Watford. You know, they lost, didn't they, to Cardiff at the weekend, and Cardiff have pulled out 2 or 3 good results and back up chasing the playoffs again. So, there'll be ups and downs, especially with injuries and the COVID regulations as well. So smaller squads, and it'll be really interesting over Christmas. And I don't think it'll be until after Christmas that it will actually take a bit more shape.
Yeah, I agree. I've always said that Neil Harris is doing a fantastic job, and he was the man for the Cardiff job. I said that all along from the start. Yeah, so that was Michael on Monday. Saying the same thing, and that kind of takes us on to the next team, which is Stoke. They'd have been very disappointed to get ahead against Cardiff, who were banging form, to then kind of throw it away. I think would have been very disappointing. And obviously they beat Boro on Saturday. Yeah,
listen, Si, I think for 1.5 games, I think Stoke had a really good week, and I think Cardiff's tactics played into Stoke's hands. I think the way that Stoke played on was it Tuesday or Wednesday, that they it suited them. It suited the way they play. Long balls going forward. You got monsters at the back who were just heading it out and clearing it, and the way that they broke with pace, it gave them an opportunity. But when Cardiff started to throw men forward and get the ball wide and play through midfield and get it wide to Wilson and Ojo and have some real threats, they couldn't live with them, and that's what they need to do. But they need to do more of it from minute 1. Not minute 45 would be 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 out and playing catch up. because not every game are you going to be able to score that second goal. You know what I mean? I thought Cardiff took the goals really well. Stoke will be disappointed with the way that, especially Gratzel scored. I thought it was poor defending at the back post by Collins to give him that much space to not win the header. Yeah, you know what I mean? He's got to know what's behind him, and I thought it was poor defending.
Yeah, and that's Stoke's problem seems to be switching off and almost not, I don't want to say laziness, but like concentration, because outside of those little errors and little mistakes, they're beating everyone. It's just those mistakes that cost them wins or draws, and it's they just got to watch that, I think, because I think that was a massive problem for them last year, but it just meant that they were losing a lot more games, whereas this year they're in quite good form, but these little errors are costing them goals. So they just got to be careful with that. Next, Brentford, good to middling couple of games.
Yeah, two draws against different draws. You know, the game against Blackburn Rovers, I think, it's a good result. The way that both sides play, both sides want to try and win the game, and it's like a boxing match in it. You hit me, I hit you, and it's you attack, I attack, and that's the way the Championship is. It's great, but then they play against Derby, which is just a different game. Derby, defensively strong, got the confidence back up from 3 draws. So you're going into that game trying to score, creating chances, but just not getting that goal. And it's how fickle football supporters are, because they're expecting Ivan Toney to score. Listen, we all are, but Ivan Toney can't score every single game and every single minute of every single game. He's scored enough goals this season to get Brentford where they are, and if it wasn't for his goals, Brentford wouldn't be in the playoffs. You know, so I think you've got to give huge credit and give a little bit of compassion as well for some results. You can't win every game, Si, and they're unbeaten. No. They're unbeaten since the end of October. So it's
that's a good run,
you know what I mean. So yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Blackburn were banging form up to that point, and Derby County are just turning it around. So you got to, sometimes you're going to meet teams in this league who are just in that little purple patch. Is just the way it is. Yeah. Next up is Bristol City, 2-1-0 wins. Boring Bristol, or grinding out the results when it counts.
Well, no, they got beat against Birmingham. Birmingham City beat them. Birmingham beat them 1-0, but then they beat Blackburn. And it's the second game for me, which was more impressive, that they kept going. You know what I mean? Because Bristol City kept going. I think they scored 82nd, 83rd minute winner. And it was just it's so important, side, because the difference between that 1 and 3 points, you know what I mean, gets them where they are. And if they'd have picked up 1 point this week, it'd have been a bad week. But picking up the 3 points against Blackburn just turns the whole thing on its head. You know what I mean? Forget about the 1-0 defeat, because we picked 3 points up our last game. So you're only as good as your last game. In your last game, you got a good result. So I think there'll be. Listen, Bristol City are doing something right this year. You know what I mean? They've been very inconsistent over the last couple of years, and my worry is 1 year is going to be their year, and is this their year? Especially again in the playoffs. I think it'll be
such a big squad, mate. I know I say it a lot. They've just got this massive squad of proven Championship players, and you just think, when you've got a squad that big with that many proven players, eventually it's going to come good, and they're going to, everything's going to click, and they're going to run away with it. But I don't think they'll run away with it this year. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them and Norwich run away with it. But equally, I also wouldn't be surprised to see Bristol struggle to make the playoffs, because they just seem to be stuck in that almost Derby County-esque kind of rut of either making the playoffs and losing, or not quite making the playoffs.
It's mentality, side. You know what I mean? That
Cardiff had it for a while, mate, where they kept just missing out on the playoffs. And
we've all been there. I've been there as a player, been there as a fan, where you know what I mean. You're expecting to be let down, and then when you are let down, you're disappointed. But then you quickly just think, it's Middlesbrough again. Middlesbrough all over, and it's just one of the things. It's the joy of being a football fan. You're expecting it, but you don't like it at the same time.
Yeah, a mixed week for Reading. Obviously, we had Michael on Monday. They beat Forest, lost to Birmingham.
Yeah, we spoke to Michael on Monday after the Saturday's game. Obviously, he scored the second goal. He said they were fantastic performance, great, some great goals on show, some good attacking play. And then when they played Birmingham in midweek, I fully expected them to go and get 6 out of 6, or at least get a draw. But you're 2-0 down against that Aitor Karanka side, you're not going to get much change out with that, because he's got his side well drilled when he needs to. And Reading got another late goal, but it was a bad result, I think, you know what I mean? But they'll take it on the chin and they'll go again.
Yeah, James says they're Birmingham flying at the moment. They've
Yeah.
been really, really impressive. I enjoy watching them as well. Swansea City next, mate.
Good week. Beat Luton at home and then drew with ex-Premier League side Bournemouth at home 0-0, which I was very surprised with. I thought both teams love scoring goals. They've scored a number of goals all season, so for that to finish 0-0 should give huge credit to the defenders. I know we spoke to Graham Jones, who's assistant manager at Bournemouth, about how well drilled he likes his sides to be, and obviously they went there with a game plan and took a point. But I think it was a better point for Bournemouth than it was for Swansea.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Swansea's game versus Luton. Luton banging form.
Yeah.
So for Swansea to go there and beat them 10-0, 2-0 with obviously Luton were down to 10 men from 70 minutes onwards, but it was already 1-0 at that point. I got to say, I thought Connor Roberts was outstanding.
He is. He's very, very consistent, and I know we're going to talk about him very soon. And
did you?
It's gonna be a big battle tomorrow for Joe Bennett to keep him quiet.
Yeah, we'll have a good chat about that in a minute. Obviously, did you see who Kabanga has been linked with?
No.
Linked with Man United.
Was he?
In January, yeah.
Agent talk. Even if he's just signed for Man United, he'll still stay where he is because he's not going to go and play that.
I don't know. They took Daniel James, though, didn't they?
I know, but
it hasn't worked out for him, so maybe that would be more likely. I got to say, I really rate him. I think he'd be a good signing for him, but I don't know whether he's going to slot in there as a first choice, is he? So he'd be better off staying in the Championship for the rest of the year. But it'd be a massive blow for them to lose him now, like in January. I think that would be dreadful. Next up, Watford, mate.
I think we've got to give Watford credit for losing at the weekend and then winning midweek, because they'll have gone into the game midweek lacking confidence on the back of a not great display. I mean, they lacked ideas against Cardiff. I thought, I thought Cardiff defended really well, but with the attacking players and the threats that Watford had, Troy Deeney, Pedro, should be doing better. No, but I think the Rotherham game, I thought they started really well. They got an early penalty. Troy Deeney got a penalty. They got the second goal, and once that went in, they'd won the game. They don't need to win it again. They don't need to win game twice. They've got enough experience in the team to understand that they're 2-0 up. The game's finished at the good time, and they can go and enjoy the rest of the game.
Yeah, spot on. Next up, Bournemouth.
I think they've had an excellent week. 2 away games, 4-0 win on Friday night, and then a 0-0 draw against Swansea, an informed Swansea side. Another 2 clean sheets. Listen, they'll be up there because they've got the players. Will I be saying this in January when the window opens and some of the players are looking for a move back to the Premier League? Who knows? You know what I mean? Will they stay and help Bournemouth back to the Premier League? I think every Bournemouth fan will hate me to say that, but I think January is always a dodgy time because players are starting to play well. Solanke's doing well. Josh King. That these kind of players, will they be there? Because Bournemouth without those kind of attacking players, David Brooks, will they still be the same threat without them kind of individuals in their team?
Yeah, I agree completely, mate. And then obviously, finally, we have Norwich City at the top of the league still.
Yeah, cracking week for them. 2-1 victories against Sheffield Wednesday, against Nottingham Forest, coming off the back of a week with no wins. Get them back to where they need to be. Excellent side. Keep going till the end. Yeah, and listen, it's just the way they do it. They're doing something right. You know what I mean? They've got a togetherness. They've got fitness levels. They've got a concentration level. They've got a manager who's driving them on from the side. And it's going to take some side to stop this Norwich side to not finish in the top 2 of the season, because they will have to either lose a lot of players in January, because I believe they'll buy somebody in to continue what they're doing, or they'll have to hit a massive bad patch, which I don't see them hitting that bad a patch, because I think a lot will depend. They do lose games, and then win more than they lose.
Yeah, I think a lot would depend on whether, when they hit that bad patch, the teams around them are in a purple patch. So, for instance, the kind of patch Cardiff have been in with 4 wins with no goals conceded and stuff like. You need the teams around them to have that type of stint when they have their wobble, but they don't look like they're going to have a wobble at the moment. I've got to be honest, mate. Yeah. And that's us with the league. So before we preview the Cardiff Swansea game, I'd like very quick. Have you got your 2 ups and 2 downs for me, pal?
No. You got one of your ups first. I have got some ideas.
So I've gone Troy Deeney of Watford. Basically, since he's come back into the side, other than the Cardiff game, they just looked like more organised going forward. They look like the other attacking players like to play off him. He just provides him with a focal point that I think they've been lacking.
Yeah, I agree.
Season and also his mentality on the pitch.
I agree. I've gone for Wayne Rooney for my first one. I think he's turned things around. I think 2 clean sheets in a week. I questioned how he was going to work defensively with being an attacking-minded player and a midfielder. You know what I mean? Doing that defensive work and drilling his side how to work from the defensive angle was going to be difficult, but he's 4 games unbeaten. As he turned that corner, can he get out the way the position they're in and move up the table? That's the next question people are going to start to ask.
Yes, spot on, mate. My next up is Kabanga of Swansea. He's been one of my players of the season. Absolutely phenomenal footballer. I've been very, very impressed with him this year, and he was very, very good again.
My second one is Scott Sinclair. I thought, especially against Middlesbrough, I thought he was absolutely outstanding. The way he just glides past players, you know, he's a proper winger, old school winger. Yes, he's getting on a little bit. He's more experienced, but this league as well. The games come thick and fast, and he just makes football look easy. You know, it was the 85th minute, and he's running from his own box all the way to Middlesbrough's box to create a chance, and he pulls off saves after save from him, and he's a joy to watch. I'd love to see him week in, week out. He's one of those kind of players who just gets you excited and gets you on the end of your seat.
Yeah, 100%, mate. He's a very exciting player to watch. Even still, like as he's come into the sort of latter part of his career, he's still exciting to watch.
Yeah.
So with regards downs, my first down is Stoke City overall, just their concentration, letting them down. And as I mentioned earlier, that's if Stoke City don't get to the playoffs or automatics this year, it will not be through lack of quality. It will be through concentration at vital moments.
My first down is Millwall fans for doing what they did against Derby County. You know, there's no place for it. I know we covered it at the start, but I don't think we can miss the bigger point. That was the biggest down of the weekend for me.
Yes, yeah, it was frankly, it was depressing, man. I've gone for Nottingham Forest, kind of overall, but also the Yates sending off really ended up costing him against Reading. He was sent off after 15 minutes. Obviously, Lucas Jarvis scored the penalty, 16 minutes. They're 1-0 down, 10 men. They got to play 80 minutes against a team which was banging form. And Forest just look like they are in a black hole being swallowed up at the moment. And I really am worried about them as a football player.
Well, my second down, my final down is similar. So it's I've gone for managers and tactics, and I'm going to name 3 in particular for 3 different reasons. So you just mentioned one of them. So Chris Hughton, whatever he's trying at the minute, it's not working. He's trying different tactics. He's trying different team selections. Tony Pulis comes in at Sheffield Wednesday. Normally you have a positive impact. Hasn't worked out for whatever reason. Going back to basics, is he waiting until January window to bring his own players in? That's a big risk. And also Neil Harris, you know what I mean, towards the top of the league. The first half against Stoke City, yes, he turned things around, but don't revert back to old tactics. If it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? Because he's been absolutely fantastic these last 3 games with his tactics. Keep going, and which puts us nicely into talking about the Derby game. Going tomorrow from minute 1, go and try to win that game and go and play exactly the way that every Cardiff fan wants to watch tomorrow.
Yeah, I got to say, mate, I think I said to you off air actually at the start, just before we came on, I was frustrated by the Stoke first hour or so because I was watching it and I was thinking, why is he reverted back to this? And I know Stoke are a big team with great players, etc., but I was like, this isn't what's got us. Like, this isn't what saved his job in the last 3 games. Because, make no mistake, Neil Harris's back was against the wall. Yeah. And he was going to go. If he'd lost those 3 games, he'd be gone. So win 4 on a bounce, I thought was exceptional. Listen,
I agree, Si. I think he's picked up the things. He's kept the same team. So for me, if you keep the same team, then the tactics has got to be more or less the same, because the players know that we're playing and they're used to playing that way for 3 games. So go and play the same way again. Whereas if you're asking Harris, for example, to do a different job, if you're asking him to play a little bit wide and not play around in the middle, I think that's a little bit unfair. I think as a player, sometimes you'd rather not play than play out of position, because you look like a fish out of water sometimes, or you don't look as confident. You know that sometimes he's been used to playing up front with Kiefer Moore. You know what I mean? The two of them have done really well. One of them goes long, one of them plays short. They play together really well, which is fantastic. For me, I think he got his tactics spot on second half. When he brought Gratzel on, I thought it was a masterstroke. I thought he looked hungry, he looked fit, he looked fresh. He looked determined, and he looked like someone who had a point to prove. He looked like somebody who's lost his place to a young lad who's more or less going to say to every football fan in the world that I'm better than him. I want to play, especially with some big games coming up. And listen, that's what you want. You want your squad that hungry. You want your squad showing desire like that. And tomorrow's game needs heart. It needs desire. But at the same time, it needs calmness as well, because there's no point losing your head in the first 10 minutes. And, I mentioned Joe Bennett. You know what I mean? Joe's got a difficult game tomorrow. He's playing against a very, very good player who will give him he'll give him the run around going forward. He'll defend as well when he needs to. So, Joe, it's a game of cat and mouse for them both. Listen, for me, I'd go as far as saying that position, you know what I mean? Whoever comes out on top of those two will have a huge impact on the result, because they both have a massive impact on their team's performances. Because when Joe's on his A game, he plays like a winger anyway, and he's playing well. You know what I mean? He scored goals. He puts balls in the box. You know what I mean? And if he's putting balls in the box, Kiefer's got an opportunity to score goals and win the football match for us. So it's. But then at the same time, Connor gets the ball. He starts to get crosses in for his own side. Listen, it's going to be intriguing. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be strange when no fans been there. You know what I mean? The clips you showed at the start, the heritage of the game, how important it is to people. I just can't explain a game which I'm excited to watch so much, but to not really want it to happen without any fans being there. It's very strange. Very strange.
Odd. We'll speak about it a bit more now, but I have got a friend sent me a clip. So let's see what he thinks the game is going to go like.
Good afternoon, guys. Just a quick message to give my predictions for Saturday. The South Wales derby, Cardiff versus Swansea. It's a massive game for Welsh football. In fact, it's one of my favourite football games to watch every single season we get to be with them. There's a lot of traction at the minute with Cardiff City. I feel like they're performing really well the last few games. With players like Kiefer Moore and Harry Wilson. I think it's going to be a bit of a hard game for the Swans. Although the Swans haven't lost a game in a while, and picking up draws the last few weeks, I do feel like that the momentum favours Cardiff a little bit. But if I'm going with my heart, I'm going to say 2-1 Swans. But my head's saying slightly different. But I'm going to go with 2-1 Swans. Let me know your predictions. Peace.
So that's Brett Johns, former UFC fighter, now with Bellator, Swansea City fan. I did reach out to a celebrity Cardiff City fan, but they didn't get back to me. So we've only got that one. But what do you think of Brett's assessment of Andy?
I think he's spot on. I think the onus is on Cardiff City. They're in form. They've won 4 in the belt. It's going to be a difficult game. Any Swansea fan who tells you differently is lying. You know what I mean? That you can look at the games last year. They weren't great games. They were terrible from a Cardiff point of view. The game at the Cardiff City Stadium was horrific. Absolutely horrific, but horrific in terms that Cardiff didn't get going. They didn't get used to the tactics from Swansea, and probably they need to understand that could happen again tomorrow. So if that happens again tomorrow, you play a game plan which effectively just wipes that out. You know what I mean? If you've got to just pile balls in the box, you pile balls in the box. If that's what you've got to do, and they're going to sit there, give them what they want. If they're expecting it, give them it. You know what I mean? Because if you're just going to play around nicely and keep the ball and not penetrate them, their defence, it's not going to happen. But listen, I think it's going to be a difficult game. I mean, we're all football fans and we're all a fan of a team, and I'm not going to sit here and say Swansea are going to win because I don't believe they will. Even if I did think they were going to win, I still wouldn't say it. But I don't believe they will win. I can't see Cardiff losing. I think they've got too much, but it just all depends on the tactics that Swansea decide to pull out. Are they going to go for it? Are they going to try and win it, or are they going to come away from the Cardiff City Stadium happy with killing the game of football like they did last time and going for a draw?
Yeah, so I agree with everything you said, other than I actually think a lot more will depend on Neil Harris's tactics. I think Cardiff City it's been very clear this year, all season, that if Cardiff play a certain way, every single team has struggled to deal with them. Yeah. When they've played the other way they play, teams have easily dealt with them. And I feel that if we go kind of down that route of playing the negative way because we're worried about X, Y, and Z of Swansea and because it's a derby, and I think he will set up not to lose, which worries me, because then I think we play into Swansea's hand to hit us, just try and pick us apart. They'll happily keep possession and we'll just not really press and we'll stand off, and I think the game will be dead. And if they create something special, Neil Harris will be forced to change it. Whereas I feel if we could get at Swansea, their results have been a little bit up and down. They've been drawing a bit more than winning. I feel they're there to be got at. But again, there says stop AU, stop Swansea.
It all depends for me. So I watched them quite closely against Middlesbrough a couple of weekends ago. I thought they weren't at the races in the first half. I thought last 20 minutes I thought they were excellent, and then nearly or probably could have got back into it and stole a draw. But Cardiff at home a different animal. You know what I mean? If Cardiff got to get the opportunities that they had, they'll put the gate in the bed and they'll win the game. You know what I mean? I believe they've got enough.
Yeah, I think Cardiff will win 2-1, but my worry is the Swansea City manager tactically is pretty good, very good. I think I'm probably doing him a disservice. He's very, very good, and he has proven that time and time again. He adapts to his opposition, so it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with to stop an informed Cardiff City, mate. I know you've got to shoot promptly, so. Are you going to tell the people who's joining us on Monday, or are we going to keep that until the weekend?
I just need confirmation, but it's a big one. We've got a big one couple of weeks, so I'm just waiting for a bit of confirmation on via text. So yeah, it's a big one, and a big one next Monday as well. So really exciting times.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the kind words by everyone. I appreciate you all joining us on a Friday night again, as always. Gaz, he said big things for 2021. Couldn't agree more. Cardiff have to win tomorrow because on Sunday night I'm recording the Danny Batten fight show and the guest is Brett Johns. So I can't sit through an hour and a half with Brett, and Swansea will have won because he will not let me hear the end of it. So in the meantime, guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever. While I remember, Sunday, 7:00, we're doing a very special live finale to the Mental Health in Sports show. So join me for that. Me and Jacob are going to have a chat. And until then, we'll bid you adieu. Thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers, guys. Good luck.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so we wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
I belong to you.
I belong to you.
Do just what you want.